Hey, I'm Roland and we're taking a look at the Honor View 20. The View 20 already launched in China a little while ago as the Honor V20, and it's now finally coming to other countries. It's launching in Europe on January 22nd, and I'm using the opportunity here in the US at CES 2019 to take just a quick and close look at this device. It's one of the first devices coming out with a hole in the screen, so it's got this punch hole camera design, which means you basically punch a hole through the panel, which is an LCD in this case, through the panel, through its backlight, and put the camera in there instead of a classic notch. So this camera is a 25 megapixel camera. They've integrated it pretty well, so if you scroll down, it basically disappears in the notification shade. And the only little small disadvantage is basically you're using a bit of screen real estate on the desktop or on the home screen, because the part up here where the time and the notifications run up are a bit taller than they used to be on other devices. Other than that, you end up with a device that has barely any bezels. So up here is the punch hole camera. The earpiece is right there integrated into the frame. There's probably also a notification LED somewhere around the frame, like Honor has been doing with a bunch of devices lately. You get a small bezel at the bottom right here, which is pretty small. It's not the smallest, but it's okay. And it runs an LCD panel that's 6.4 inches in diagonal, and it has a resolution of 2310 by 1080. So it's decent high resolution. It's not an OLED panel, but that doesn't really matter because I'd rather trade slightly less high contrasts than or in comparison with Pentile Matrix OLED panels, which also always lose a bit of quality compared to these 1080p LCD screens that have just a standard RGB matrix in this case. So bezels are not much of a thing on this device. Under the hood you get the new Kirin 980, the new Kirin 980 from Huawei, which is also in the Mate 20 Pro that we all know and have seen around for a while. So that's the octa-core SoC running at up to, I think, 2.6 gigahertz max on the most high-end cores. It's a 7 nanometer chip, so it's the high-end SoC that has just been launched in the Mate 20 series and is now finally coming to the Honor branded smartphones from Huawei that are also launching worldwide, at least if you're not in the US in this case. Other than that, we have Android 9.0, which is Android Pie, using the EMUI 9.0 from Huawei, so it's basically just the fully skinned version of Android. Let's just quickly go into settings and about phone, and then you'll see that this is obviously already a European model, so it has the PCT L29 moniker or model number right there. Android version is right here, 9.0, there's your Kirin 980, and down here is proof that we have the most high-end version of this device coming out. So we have 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage integrated. I think there's also a Moschino version, like this fashion label. I don't know if that actually has more RAM, but this one is definitely the most high-end regular version with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 in storage. The front camera has 25 megapixels, as I already said, and on the back you get a combination that is pretty interesting. So this is one of the first phones that uses the new Sony IMX586 CMOS sensor. So the camera sensor back here has a resolution of 48 megapixels in a smartphone, which is actually pretty ridiculous, and we'll see a bunch of phones coming out later this year that will probably have this sensor. We'll have to see about what the quality will end up being like, but it definitely seems fine. They're downsampling it to 12 megapixels, so they're basically using 4 pixels and combining them into one to push out higher picture quality, basically. What they also add is a time of flight 3D sensor back here, which uses the fact that they know how long it usually takes for a light particle to travel in space to measure distances, which will help you definitely when taking photos. But you cannot only use that for taking photos, they'll also use this for kind of Kinect style games. So they have a setup here at CES where you'll actually be able to play, I think it's like a ski riding game that you control with your arms and legs basically, and it works kind of like a Kinect sensor for your Xbox, but this one has this in a mobile form factor. Down here is your fingerprint reader on the back of the device, because this uses an LCD and there is no possibility to put the fingerprint reader under the screen of the device because it has a backlight in this case. You get the AI vision stuff that has been on these devices for a while, so they're using the NPU of the Kirin 980 SoC to do a bunch of different camera effects. And down here you have the Honor logo, which is now in this new style. They're slowly and quietly rebranding to this new design, depending on if you like it. But what's also interesting is at the back of this device there's also a blue version, I think also a black model, but this red one actually looks really stunning, and the V style on the back, which probably stands for the V or View 20 in this case, is really looking pretty stunning, I have to say. It's a glass cover on the back. We have a metal frame on here in which you find not only a height of, I think it's about like close to 10 millimeters in thickness, but you also get a 4000 milliamp hour battery that you can supercharge with 22.5 watts. But you also get this volume rocker and the power button, which are usually pretty clicky as usual on the Huawei devices. On the bottom you have a USB Type-C port plus your one of the speakers, and over here is one of the speech mics. Over on the left is where your nano SIM card slot sits. This should be a 2 nano SIM slots. I don't know if this actually runs with the new nano memory cards from Huawei that have launched alongside the Mate 20 series. But we'll have to see about that. I think it even uses a micro SD card slot, but if not, if I'm wrong, just correct me in the comments. Over here we have a 3.5mm headset jack, and over on the left of my frame right here are an IR blaster and something else that I can't really identify. I'll put this in the description if I bother. And up here is the second speech mic. So yeah, that's been a really quick and dirty look at the new Honor View 20 here at CES 2019, one of the first phones with a punch hole camera that is soon launching in Europe. It's going to be a little while, but it's probably out in I think February, and the pricing should be around 580, maybe 600 euros. We'll have to see about that.